Remote's great, I do enjoy it a lot. If you are remote, one thing to like not worry about is having a PC. They do send you a PC, they send you a keyboard, they send you a mouse, they'll send you headsets, I'm sure they'll send you monitors as well. Anything you need to do your job, they will send you that, on top of like random merch. I think I've got like water bottles and beanies and socks, which I never use, but yeah, they'll send you that too. Flexible working is something that's very standard. You'll see that on every job application. It basically just means that like if you need to nip out and go to like a dentist appointment, you can do that. If you need to start at like 10 AM instead of 8 AM that day or something, you can do that too. It just gives you, again, a bit more like work-life balance, which I think is super important. If you are moving to a studio as well, you should also be really expecting them to pay for relocation costs. If you're going somewhere, they should help you pay like a moving fee and other things like that. Sometimes they'll give you a loan if you need to do like a deposit on a flat or something as well. So if they are going to be making you move there, they should also have someone in that HR team who's helping you with that the whole way. They should be able to say like, move to these areas, that's where a lot of our staff end up, these are quite safe areas. They should be finding you places that you can live in, offering to go to in-person viewings. I know that it must be like a very scary thing to think about having to like move to somewhere that is in the middle of nowhere for a job, but like they should have someone on that team to help you through it. And you're also going to be with other juniors because they tend to hire in waves, so you'll be with another group of juniors who are going through the same thing. So just, it's like kind of like uni, I guess. A benefit that is good at companies as well is having private healthcare. So it depends on the company. Most bigger studios will give you that. Getting like vision care and dental care, like it depends on the company, but yeah, generally speaking, that's a benefit you get after you do your probation. And finally, on like general industry stuff, is for a salary, before you do an interview with anywhere, go on glassdoor.com and look up the company, and you will be able to get all of the salaries. You will also be able to get anonymous reviews that aren't actually anonymous. Never ever post a review on Glassdoor because the CEOs can look it up, but go on there and get the salaries. Whenever you go into those interviews, like try not to lowball. Anything between 22 to 28k is acceptable for a junior. Honestly, try and push for the higher end though, because that figure will be like maybe like last year's figure, and like, you know, cost of living crisis, everyday studios are raising salaries. Like, stay really up to date on that and like don't lowball them. If you go into an interview and ask for 22k, even if they would pay you 26, like they just won't, because like they are still a company, you know. But yeah, I'll go into what a junior role is like as well for you guys. So another thing to like take off your shoulders is being a junior, it means you don't make your company much money. Like that is just what it unofficially means. Certain studios you'll be doing more or less, but yeah. What I mean by that is like, so for example with myself, in my job, I have a line manager who has to look at all my work, who's like a senior. The art lead, the art director has to look at my work, and I have a producer I have to check in every day. And like all of those people make so much more money than me and spend a lot of their day fixing like fires that I've started, helping me with stuff, giving me a lot of feedback and things like that. So what I mean is just that like the studio has to spend a lot of time and money training you, and like that is a good thing and something that you guys should feel good about, because it just means that like you don't need to go in there knowing anything really. As long as you're like good enough, like you're not going to know like their extensive art bible or like any secret plugins that they have. They will give you a robust onboarding process to teach you guys that sort of stuff, which could be like anywhere from like a few weeks to a few months. If you're going into an interview, like please ask them that question as well, because that studio, they should be viewing you as a person, and they should be wanting to like, you know, get you guys like thoroughly comfortable with the company and like thoroughly set up with all of their workflows and, you know, things like that. Sorry guys, water. I'm talking very quickly. But yeah, generally after a year or so, you guys will move from being a junior into a mid role. So basically, again, these are like general titles, by the way. Every company for some reason wants to call them something different. But yeah, it's like, you know, graduate, junior to like a mid artist. And that'll happen like anywhere from like a year to maybe 3 years in. And it basically just means that you go from being someone who like does a little bit of work with a lot of oversight to someone who's just a lot more independent and only really needs to like speak to their leads, like to get a bit of feedback on projects like from time to time, you know. I would say that in a studio, like mids tend to do the bulk of the work. You'll probably, whenever you start, even be able to like ask the mids for a lot of help, because they usually are super nice because they were just in your position like a few months or maybe like a year ago. Yeah, Generally, like in industry, people are always very nice and very open to helping. So if you are in those studios and you're nervous about someone, like say you don't know what you're doing on a project, you have accidentally deleted loads of stuff, you have blown something up, like they are expecting you to do that as a junior. Like you just mess up constantly, and like that's fine, they will help you with that. That's why we have seniors and leads. And yeah, seniors at a job, they tend to do a lot of managerial stuff, so you'll probably have them as like a project lead, and they'll give you loads of feedback and advice. They have to do a lot, especially in my company because we do outsourcing, they have to do a lot of write-up and documentation, and they really have to like, you know, tell you exactly what to do. If you're like, for example, if you're doing like an XGen thing, you will get a very long tutorial on how to set up everything to do with XGen, how many things will go wrong, like they have to be very thorough, basically. I don't like XGen. But yeah, I'll go into, can you do this slide? My day in the life as a junior, and sort of what you can also ask this as a question in your interviews, but it'll generally be the same thing. Like honestly, the majority of my day is just sitting like with Maya open and having like YouTube open or Spotify open on like my other monitor. It's quite chill, but these are like sort of my points. I'll start between like 8 and 10 a.m. every day. Again, it just like depends on what I have going on in my like actual life. Normally I have a morning production meeting, so you have producers whenever you go into industry, and they're just like a project manager. They tell you what assets you're working on, give you like a rough estimate for how long before they want them done. If you have questions, they'll like talk to clients for you. They're basically just, they're your go-to person if you need help with like pretty much anything to do with the project. I'll have a little sync with them in the morning with like the other artists on the team. So it could be like, you know, like 4 or 5-ish people on just a really chill like 10-minute talk. We just talk about like what we're doing that day. Are we having any issues with like the engine or something like that? If we need help or like people to look at an asset with us, we can ask for it then. It's just a really chill way while you're just already on a call to just like throw some questions in if you need it. And yeah, in my company, our line managers also are like quite active, so every single day I have to give mine an update on like what project I'm on, what assets I'm doing, do I need help with it. For example, if it's like a new like hairstyle that I don't really know anything about, I'll ask them and they'll like put me in touch with someone in the company who can help me with it, and you know, just nice things like that. And yeah, whenever I do get an asset done, which like isn't that often, like you can take your time with these things. Like you're a junior again, like what takes a junior like 4 hours to do would take like a mid like 2 hours, like just the way it works, you know. But when I do get an asset done, it has to get improved internally by art lead and an art director, so there's a lot of people looking at your work before it gets sent off. Like you're not going to actually send something off and like make an embarrassment of yourself. It doesn't happen, you will be fine. Yeah, I'll just talk as well about outsourcing or co-development as it's called sometimes, but I'm going to have a drink first. Talking this much is like not good for the throat.
You got those hair before,
me neither, yeah. It's actually really sad, there's loads of really nice hair, but like I thought Forza only had cars, yeah. But yeah, so outsourcing, which is what I do, basically that is just where studios say, can you make us 20 hairs? They'll give us like references, we make 20 hairs and send them back. Co-development, which is like what a lot of studios do. I think like the Sumo group is like the big one for it, where like you're just like making a game with like the buddy system, where like it's 2 studios bouncing back and forth constantly. We do that for a few projects, but not many. One thing that is great about outsourcing I do have to recommend is like the variety of projects that you get to work on is so unreal, honestly. I didn't even think it would be a thing whenever I'm making hair, because like the difference between like a sci-fi and fantasy hair isn't that much, but like you would still be surprised. Like there's such a good like broad range of what you can do, like any genre. And once they know that like you're a capable employee, like yeah, I can look it up because I know I follow it, but yeah, it's definitely a good one to look up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So alongside working from home, would you say you have time for your own projects outside of work?
Right. You have the time. You're not expected to be doing personal projects or something like that, and you don't really have the energy, to be honest. I haven't done anything properly since I left the industry. I think around Christmas I had a meeting with my line manager and we were talking about like the sort of stuff I need to learn for me to get like the promotion to mid, and he basically just said like You could learn this, but like I don't think give yourself like a 2-year break basically once you've got that job before you start like doing personal work. Like it's fine. You know what I mean?
See, so like how many days? What's the like time schedule like week to week?
Week to week, like how much time like do I work or?
Yeah, like day to day. Like when you start.
I have to log 7.5 hours every day of work. Some companies will have benefits like personal development. So on a Friday, so I'll work like 9 to 1, have a 1 hour break, and then go back and work from 2 to half 5. But on a Friday, I work till half 1, and then I'm done for the day because the afternoon's personal development, which is technically like an excuse to like do your own work. But for me, I like do the washing and like chores and stuff, you know.
You don't get like homework break.
No, you don't get homework. If you get homework, that's called overtime and they better be paying you for it.
Say if you said, I'll do some work from like 6 to 10 p.m. It's outside of your hours.
I mean, like, you totally can do that. And the other thing as well, if you're doing that, like, you're doing it around the best group of people because everybody at that company will, like, know more than you. So you can always, like, speak to them and ask them for help on things. People are generally always very excited to help out and like, you know, share their knowledge. Yeah. But no, don't feel like you're obligated to do. If you get the job, like, be very proud of yourself and like take every evening off for like the next 6 months minimum. Like, you've accomplished it. You can chill out for a bit. You know, you've earned it.
Yeah, to that.
Yeah.
I think like once you've got the job as well, your job will add to your portfolio. So you don't need to be doing a lot of extra things like that. I mean,
yeah.
You can, and a lot of people still do. But you know, there's not that pressure that you feel right now where you have to keep adding to the portfolio. And also, a lot of devs will do things like game jams, so they can just make a whole portfolio piece in like one weekend, and then it's done. So it's not like a whole week's long task.
And also, if you start at a studio and want to leave, just having that you've been at a studio on your CV, like you don't need to add anything else. I have a friend who left recently, and they didn't have, like they worked at Airship for like maybe like 6 or 7 months, and they got a new job where like they almost got appointed as mid with just their graduate work on it, but because they were able to just have on the CV that they worked in games, like that got them in the door to like loads of other companies. So don't worry about it, just having the CV is enough, and they understand that like you can't show your work and it's tiring. Yeah?
Would you recommend looking for like work whilst doing your course? So like trying to like, because I heard that you can substitute some of your course with an actual like internship.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it if you can get it, but those positions are like really hard to get. That being said though, like if you get it, absolutely go for it if you can do something that's like relative industry experience. I have a friend who, it said like he took a year out and worked at, I can't remember what they're called, but they did the Sackboy games.
Oh,
yeah, yes, yeah, he worked at Sumo. It was like a programmer, and they literally told him like, you don't need to finish your degree if you don't want to. Like, we'll just hire you now. And that was after like maybe like a year, maybe 2 of uni. Like, so if you can get an interview, like internship, just totally go for it. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, anybody? Yes.
I remember at the start you mentioned something about credits.
Credits, yeah. So that's whenever like the game credit comes out, and like that's just whenever you can like put on your CV and stuff that you worked on the game. So I have a credit for WWE because the credits are out, you know what I mean? But one of the projects just doesn't do them, and the other one is still like an ongoing project. So yeah, you can add those onto your CV as like a specific thing, but like if the project's not out, again, like people don't really like ask in interviews like that because everybody knows the way the industry works. Like for me, I've been on all those projects, but I just won't have anything to show for them, like on my portfolio. And if I wanted to get a new job, like they would understand that because like it happens all the time, you know? So, yeah. Yes?
When you're starting out with your CV trying to get a job, did you use a portfolio site or did you make your own?
Just Microsoft Word. You don't need to like do anything like fancy for your CV. For your portfolio, I do art, so I just have mine on ArtStation. If you like, what do you do? Are you art or
concept art?
Concept, yeah, just use ArtStation. ArtStation's more than enough for concept art. Yeah. Yeah.
How valuable is work experience?
How what? Sorry.
How valuable is work experience when you're applying?
How valuable is work experience?
How valuable, yeah.
How valued? Depends on the experience. So I had a few interviews before I got airship, and I didn't have any industry experience. I only had like a lot of part-time work that I'd done. And some companies like actually just didn't care about you having had a job before. They only cared about like industry experience. Like that's the only thing, even for a graduate. But like airship was like really interested in it because I was able to show that I'd been able to like work in teams and things like that. If you're able to like take any form of experience and just say like, oh, this taught me how to work in teams, this taught me how to like delegation, communicate, do you know what I mean? You don't really need to talk about the experience, but more like the skills you have from that experience.
Yeah, can I say something to that? Yeah.
Yes.
I did some work experience on and off before I got my job, and it did give me like a few like hard surface models that I'd made. So if it's anything like work experience related to 3D or whatever you're going into programming, just yeah, it's very, very valuable because you can say you've already worked in a team doing that thing to a deadline, you know. So yeah, I'd say if you can get work experience, especially in anything related to your course, absolutely go for it. And even if it's not related to your course, just like team stuff, it's always useful because you can say you worked in teams and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Doesn't everything helps, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is there a particular way you go looking for?
Reach out to companies.
Yeah, reach out to companies. Really, it's just like finding out which ones do like internships and things like that. I mean, I didn't really get in with like relative industry experience. If you want to like, you don't always like get those like internships. Like they're so hard to get. What I think is also good experience is like if you decide on like the company you want to work at, like make a portfolio for them because that sort of demonstrates that they don't need to train you as much and you kind of know what you're doing already. Like for airship, I made a hairpiece and was like marketed that. Like I know your workflows because I stalked your artists online and like figured it out, you know. Yeah.
The one I worked at was like local to me, so check what's local to you and where you can get to like quite easily. And if there's anything local, just like, send a message. Just like
you like yours was just like making 3D models. It was like hard surface stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a hard surface artist, like going for companies that do like e-learning and like random 3D roles, do exactly the same thing. Like, I did like pipes and hard surface animations for the oil and gas industry, and it's super random, but it's 3ds Max and it's exactly the same. So if you can find a random local thing like that, they might like it because you're local as well, and you know, you just roll up there. So just
Oh, sorry.
Did you have to do an art test before you applied, or was it just?
No, that depends on the company and it also can depend on your work. Even just getting an art test, by the way, is a huge accomplishment, so like feel good if you get one. But yeah, it just depends. Another company that I interviewed at did do art tests and I just decided not to do it. It just depends. They should give you like a week or maybe 2 weeks if you have a job to do it.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't really know a lot about art tests. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, if you get offered one, go for it if you have the time. Obviously, you know, it's saying that they're interested in you. They just want to see that you've got the relevant skills for that job. So yeah, go for it if they do offer you one, if you have the time. But if you get another offer that's something you like more, go for that. Isn't it?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I got one for an art test and then turned it down for the airship job because I just was more interested in it. So yeah, I mean, an art test is also quite a good way to be able to see what sort of work that they have like in store for you because obviously they're testing you and like, can you do what we do? Yeah. So you know, it's always good for that. Like if you get an art test and you like actually just don't really like the work that's on it, then like you know.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
Oh yes.
Does it work doing things like art competitions?
Yes, you totally can. So like there's grads and games and things like that. Also like doing like the art station challenges, stuff like that. Like that totally works. I didn't really get in with that sort of stuff, but you know, it's always fun and there's always the potential of like you can sort of network with like the judges if you do well. I think the reward for like grads and games, like the search for star thing, I think the reward is like an interview with companies, like mock interviews and things like that. So yeah.
What type of things have you found that employers look for in portfolios?
What do I think employers look for?
Yeah.
I'm not a hiring person, but in my opinion,
Oh, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Forgetting things.
I'm gonna go sit down.
Yeah, sure. Hello everyone. Feel free to keep working or do whatever. It's just the general tips and tricks for ZBrush if you're interested. So yeah, hello, my name's Max. I work on Sea of Thieves currently, and I can't really talk about Sea of Thieves, but I can talk about some general ZBrush things that I've learned over my uni years and so forth. So while I'm talking, I'm just going to start creating a little base model for myself. So general tip number one for getting better at ZBrush, make a custom UI. It's like the most important thing ever. You see, this is my UI that I've loaded in today, and I say that because ZBrush, if you've opened it before, it has got the worst UI of any software ever. And you can, I mean, look at these menus, they just go on forever. I don't think anyone's even been down here in the past century. So if you make a custom UI, if you find something you like, you can just put it on there and it's there forever. So if you're not sure how to do that, you go up to Preferences, Config, Enable Customize, and then you can do Control-Alt and drag things onto it, and then you click Save UI, Store Config, happy days. You can also, a really hot tip is if you've got OneDrive at uni, which I think you'll still do, you can put the UI file on your OneDrive and then load it in while you're in the labs, which is really helpful if you've got things where you want them, you know. So
I think there's a question over there. I see a hand.
oh yeah, sorry, I missed
Would
you.
it be worthwhile stealing another artist's compo?
Yeah. Who do you use?
Flip Normals have a
Yeah.
config for free, and it's got some of the stuff that's at the top of Max's. It's got that, and it also puts the lighting on like this. Oh, Max also has it on the side.
the light bulb.
Yours has a bunch of the Flip Normals, but just more.
Yeah, I
Flip
didn't
Normals have
realise.
a free one on their website. Steal that.
Yeah, get it straight away. Don't even. I mean, you can use the default UI if you want, but it just makes you'll save a lot of time if you just put things on it. And you know, if you find something you like that's completely random, like cloth pull brush, I just put it there, and I would forget about it otherwise. So that's just the first and most important point which I wanted to get out straight away. But a more general one is if you want to get better at ZBrush and you're just starting, the best way, especially for characters and anatomy, is to do daily sculpts or weekly sculpts, maybe like one or two a week, and time them. Just do a 30-minute hand sculpt, 20-minute leg sculpt, 10-minute head sculpt, and then once you're done with it, call it a day and don't go back to that project. Because I feel like when you're starting out, there's the kind of you want to start doing massive projects. You might say, oh, I'm going to make a giant dragon that's going to have a character and armor. And at that stage, when you're learning really early on, you might not have the skills to do that yet, and you'll get a lot more. It'll help you out a lot more if you just do regular sculpts, which are timed, and you'll get through a lot more. So another quick fun tip is try new brushes every session. Look at all these brushes. There's a huge amount of them. I don't know what half of them do, but if you try them out, you might find they do something pretty cool which you didn't know existed. Like, well, this hasn't got my custom brushes, which is all these holes right now, but normally this whole chunk down here is full of brushes, and I might use them once every 2 months, but you know, it might be perfect for that one exact thing you want to do. Like smooth cloth is really good if you've got stylized fabric folds, and it's a lot better than using the regular smooth brush. So if you're using lots of different brushes or just trying things out, you'll start to learn the software a lot more, and it will really help you. And some of them are just really cool, like elastic. You know, it just gives a really weird effect. Or I'm not allowed to use it apparently. Let's try something else. Fold brush. I know this is going to be super strong. Sorry, let's polish 3D. There we go. Yeah, I've actually used fold brush in really random scenarios, and it just folds things over. If you've got like flabby skin or something, you want to fold it over, put it really light. In ZBrush, there is a brush for everything you need, really specific things, and you know, you'll find that one thing in there if you try them all out. Yeah.
Will they contain separate brushes? So
Oh, that's a good shout actually.
But you can put it into your startup folder.
Yeah, there's a folder in the documents of ZBrush called Startup, and I think it's called ZBrushes, ZBrushes, and you can just Google this or give the directory. You can also put that on your OneDrive, and when you load into a PC at uni, you can just drag your brushes into the folder. So get a shortcut for that and put it all on your OneDrive, and you'll have the whole setup straight away. So yeah, another thing. So I'm super blind. Change the lighting in your sculpts regularly. You can do that by coming up to light and there's a ball, and you just click the button and it changes the light around. You'll be surprised at how different your model looks with different lighting angles. And you can also put this light ball on your UI, and honestly I use it every 10 minutes. Just spin the ball around, you get different angles. This won't work if you're using the default material, which is matte cap grey. If you sort it down to something like basic material 2, and for everyone who's wondering, this is the main material that is good for most things, until you need to do very specific things in the future. Basic material 2 or basic material, great materials. You don't go crazy with your red wax or something ridiculous like this one. It's funny, but it isn't helpful. Or use it if you like it. Live your life. Yeah, another random thing, use PureRef. If you've not used PureRef before, you need to download this as soon as you go home. It is the best thing ever, PureRef. It basically gives you a mood board that you can put on top of your screen all times. So you can just grab links and put it on your screen, grab images, put it there. You can put you can get a mobile version of it. Not mobile, what's it called when it's?
Portable.
A portable version of it. Here it is, Portable 64. Basically, if you download this and put it on your OneDrive, you can open up PureRef at uni, and it's really helpful. I only learned about this in like the second year when you told me it, which is kind of sad because it's so helpful. I use it for everything, not even 3D. You can just slam a picture on there, have it on your screen. Super helpful.
It's also free.
It's also free.
It's free.
You've got no excuse. It's super good. Everyone uses it in industry. It's like the best thing ever, and it's super easy to use. Other two things that kind of close together. Contact industry artists. Just doesn't have to be about anything crazy. Obviously, don't just say, do you want to go pub? You don't know them. Just say hello. How do I get better at stylised? Can you give me any tips? Can you give me any tutorials? They might, they might not respond, but you'll be surprised at how lovely people are in industry, and they'll be more than happy to a lot of times give you some advice and give you some links or forward you things. And they're on LinkedIn. If you're not sure where to find them, go to LinkedIn, find a studio you like, look at the staff list, find junior artists and just give them a message. What's the worst they can say is no. So might as well just say hello to them. And finally, for my general ZBrush tips, those aren't really ZBrush tips, these are kind of general life tips, but this is a good one for ZBrush. Get reflections from people regularly. Take your work to your lecturers, to your friends, if you're doing things like likeness, take them to just people you know, because they're the best critics of likeness. They'll be able to tell if it's realistic or not. But everything you do, send it to someone else, because if you work on something for too long, you become blind to the problems of it, and this happens to everyone at all levels. So if you're getting constant advice and getting fresh eyes on your work, you'll improve exponentially. So just take a deep breath.
Yeah, that definitely works. I definitely think that most of the time whenever I send something for like feedback and work, it's because I'm like, I've looked at this for 2 weeks straight. I just need somebody to tell me what is left to do on it,
I mean, even for me, if I work on something for 2 hours and I'm really focused on it, I will not see the problems. And you really need to stand up and go away, get fresh eyes on it, just get opinions. If you have friends on your course, send it to your friends. Everyone, I think lecturers are probably the best. So send it to whoever you can and get opinions. And they will give you criticism. They might say this looks wrong, but that's part of the job. You're going to get criticism in all levels, and it's valuable. It really is helpful. And if you can learn to take crit early and see where you're struggling, you will become a better artist in no time. So now we've got some ZBrush tips. God, I've not used one of these tablets in a long time. Right. Well, I might have to do it with one mouse because I'm not sure how to use the pen. But it's fine, we move. First things first, ZBrush, great button, AccuCurve. Anyone who I've spoken to before knows how much I love this button. I'll go into it, but firstly it's in brush, curve, AccuCurve. If you're doing anything ZBrush related, this button's just great because it makes any brush that you want a pointy brush. So without AccuCurve, here's the move tool. Horrible, blobby, not helpful, terrible. But AccuCurve makes it pointy. And it's kind of hard to tell where this will come helpful, but once you've got a super detailed character or a weapon or a stylized prop, and you need to start making small adjustments, which is a big part of the job, is like hours and hours spent just making small adjustments. Having AccuCurve and being able to just do fine details is super, super helpful. I won't bring up random students' work. Find basic head. So say I wanted to edit the eyes of this character and I've got the move brush. You could use focal shift, but I don't know, I don't really like messing with the focal shift. I think AccuCurve is just a standard, it's easy. If I want to edit the eyes, if I start moving things around, I start moving the bone structure, I might start moving everything. It becomes a bit difficult to make adjustments if I want to make eyes different. If I have AccuCurve on, I can just target certain bits and just nudge bits in very specifically. Pardon me. And it's just way more helpful. You can put it on any brush, you can experiment with what brushes it's on. Really good. So brush, curve, AccuCurve, put it on your UI, because who's going to remember this directory for it? Yeah, another tip in general when you're sculpting is to work quick and don't get hung up on the little details especially when you're starting off and you're in your primary forms. I like to move really, really quickly and sculpt really fast and without a care in the world about what I'm actually making. So, say you want to make a head. This is a good way to make a head, by the way. Anatomy for Sculptors will teach you this method where you make this kind of shape out of cylinders. There's my merge down. My UI is a bit too cramped right now. Yeah, if you're going to make a UI, make it prettier than mine, because mine's pretty hectic right now, but there we go. Trying to mesh that together. I'm going to test the pen one more time. That seems to be good. Yeah, it struggles a little bit. It's fine, we'll just use the mouse. But yeah, when you're starting off models, you want high intensity brushes and you want to move really quickly. Don't get worried, don't start going really high poly or worrying about anything. Just work fast, carve in your shapes, make sure it's really, really dramatic, and just don't stop sculpting. If your pen stops, then you're doing it wrong. You just want to just keep chugging things in without care in the world. There we go. There's the face. Lovely job. And if you're using that, you could start to use another thing which I like to call depth mask. It basically limits how deep a brush can go. And I've got depth mask here. I can't remember where depth mask is in the UI. Do you remember where it is? This is why you make a custom UI, because no one knows where depth mask is.
It's somewhere in brush, but
oh, I feel like it's in stroke. Even though it's probably in brush, you're right. Oh, thank you so much. Let's give it a go. Oh,
yeah, there you go.
No, I don't think it likes me. I don't think
It didn't work?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. We'll just use the mouse. We'll go for it. But yeah, depth mask is really good. It's a bit of a random one, but I really like it and I use it regularly. You can just click depth mask, and as opposed to normal brush like this, it kind of goes that deep. If you click depth mask, you can adjust how far down the brush goes, so you can make really hard surface edges. It's not very clear on this, but something like a H polish. Another subdivision. It's also good with when you have pressure sensitivity. It's quite hard to do when you're on mouse, but yeah, depth mask. If you're interested in it, write it down. Really good one. Sorry, I don't know where it is. It's locked away somewhere in here.
It's in the depth under brush.
Depth under brush.
Yeah.
I swear I saw it as well. Oh my god. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Pop that on your UI. Gravity's good as well. It's really good if you're doing hard surface polishing, because you can put it on something like H polish, bring the depth right up, and you can get really, really clean polishes on your things. Because if you're using H polish regularly, it actually brings up edges around it. Like, it's hard to tell, but it makes more of an oval shape and pushes it up the edges, whereas if you have a depth mask, it carves the top. So if you're doing anything hard surface or stylized, get yourself some depth mask. I was going to use Orb Extreme Polish, but it's not on my Orbs pack. It's okay. We'll go over some good packs that everyone should download. Another good thing that I don't think you get taught much at uni is Sculptures Pro. It's this button here. And as you're modelling, you may use Dynamesh to retopologize. You know, you build out some detail here. The topology gets pretty janky, so you Dynamesh it. There you go. But if you're working fast and like trying to get something out really quick, I quite like Sculptures Pro. And what it does is it retopologizes as you do the brush strokes. So here's the topology. And if I do a stroke, it's retopologized it as I go along. So what this allows for is just constant sculpting without stop, because it will give you the geometry you need as you go along. So I quite like doing this. It's also good for like deleting big areas because it will retopologize it away. It's also good for things like horns, or you could even like sculpt the whole character through Snakehook and Sculptures Pro. If you try and use Snakehook without Sculptures Pro, you'll see that it destroys the model after a certain length. Like I said, this topology is shredded. And if you Dynamesh that, it might even like break the model a little bit. But if you turn on Sculptures Pro, it gives you constant geometry, and you can make, I don't know, tree branches or whatever you want. You can go crazy. I actually like to sculpt torsos from this, where I will literally just pull out the spine, and then I would start like pulling out the torso. If I'm doing an anatomy sculpt, if I'm doing something more important, I probably wouldn't do this, but it's quite good because you just pull out the geometry you want, and it is making it as we go along. It's a lot like Blender Dino Topo, I think it's called. Not too sure. But yeah, I should probably go over the brushes that I quite like. If you're just doing anything organic, clay build up, trim dynamic, move, down standard, that's all you need. That's what you'll get taught. The most basic brushes are the most helpful ones. You don't have to go crazy and start using some crazy brushes for organic. Eventually you'll start using maybe some VDMs like skin and all that, but that's different, you know. When you're just doing your general sculpting, clay build up with different settings, and down standards will get you the majority of the way there. So there we go. A little bit intense. Yeah, so also I'll go over some interesting brushes. If any of you are realistic sculptors in the room, you can use things like the cloth brushes. If you've got a low poly model, you can use yourself like a cloth smooth. It's not a good one actually. It would be good for something like cloth pinch, which I've not used in a while. Cloth pinch. You can get some really weird effects if I make it a little bit more high poly. Not 2.5 million, slide. There you go. The cloth brushes can give you some really nice effects, and they can give you wrinkles and things like that. It keeps the general form of the model, so you can get some really cool effects without destroying the model. And it's really good if you're doing like an old man. You can cloth pinch like the crow's eyes, you can get like the folds of around his mouth and all sorts. And it's a really nice starting point if you're doing some organic sculpting.
If you're doing an organic sculpt, how long would you say, especially when you say that you like to work without stopping, how long would you say it takes you to like progress into like secondary forms sort of?
It's a tricky one. It depends. I've not done an organic sculpt in a while. I do spend a lot of time on the primary forms because I think it is one of the most important, getting general shape there, and then probably the most amount of time on secondary forms, because once you've got your secondary forms, for those who don't know, there's primary, secondary and tertiary. And primary is like this, where it's a big blob, you just try to get the big shape. Secondary is when you're starting to carve in like the muscles, just get more of the shapes, you just might do the features. And then tertiary is the details, like the skin details and the pores and all that. And I think secondary is the most important because it does define a lot of the model. So I do spend a lot of time there. Once you've got your skin ready to go, it's more of a case of just getting a skin brush and slapping it on. Probably do tertiary in about 2 days, whereas secondary you can spend weeks on doing secondary forms. But it depends per model. Every model's different. Yeah, it's honestly a weird one. Another tip, just for general sculpting as you're going along, and it's a really obvious one, but I never use it, but you can just mask things and move them. So you can hold control, mask, and you can click outside the box, and you can just grab the transpose tool and just move. So you can, if you want to just give him more of a body, invert that, and use the transpose tool, you can bring it down, scale it up. Again, gorgeous. And this is really good for things like if you're trying to get I remember I did it for my dinosaur scales. He had some dinosaur bits at the back. I basically masked them on intervals. That's not what I want. So like that, like that. And then, you know, you can use the mask then to move out bits like this. Now obviously you can do it a lot cleaner than this. But you see what I mean? You kind of do this to build up the general shape of things.
One of my art leads did that. He did dinosaur illustrations. Like he made 3D models of dinosaurs for books for like 30 years, and that was his like technique.
Really?
He would like spend 2 days going in and masking every single scale, and then he would like use the masks, and that's how he sculpted it all.
Yeah, that's dedication. But it does give you a lot of control then, especially with scales where there's like not much space between them. If you're using masks, you can get a really sharp kind of whatever you call it, those little gaps.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't neglect the mask tool. It's really good. You can do a lot with masks as well. You can do all kinds of weird shapes. You can like inflate this area, and it kind of creates this overlap around it, so you can get some really cool shapes from masks. Look at that. It's like he's a zombie or something. But yeah. I was going to say bend curve. I don't think bend curve's too important.
I don't think you can use it on this model.
Probably not, no. We'll leave bend curve for now.
Flip curve.
Yeah, we've got stylized coming up. So for stylized models, which is, you know, what I do a lot of, there's a lot of things you can do. I think one of the most important things is to get the brushes. So the main brushes are the orbs crack brushes. And I'll show them on the screen. They're free brushes. Yeah, we've got stylized coming up. So for stylized models, which is, you know, what I do a lot of, there's a lot of things you can do. I think one of the most important things is to get the brushes. So the main brushes are the orbs cracked brushes. I'll show them on the screen. They're free brushes that you can get off ArtStation, and they just are basically the go-to stylized brushes. There they are, they're on ArtStation. There's multiple websites you can get them on. And thing in Orbs Cracked, especially this bottom right one, which is called Orbs Flatten Edge, is like the go-to polishing brush for anything stylized. It's super good, super helpful. Extreme Polish is also really good. But what I'd say is just get this pack and try them out if you're interested in stylized. Or if you're interested in hard surface, because the Orbs Flatten Edge one is really good for hard surface models. And you'll come to realise hard surface and stylized can be quite similar because they both require real clean geometry, and you can get that through Orbs Cracked. There's two others that I couldn't find the links for. I don't know if they're still available, but they're called MAH and SK brushes. I think SK ones are like or maybe they're right here. Oh well, I won't show the mature content, but yeah, the SK brush is also really nice. SK trim is really, really good for stylized. But get all the brushes. I use these stylized brushes in my organic sculpt as well. Just use everything everywhere, you know. So another great tool if you're doing stylized sculpting is Click Curve. And this is great for everything. Basically, if you do Control Shift, you unlock this section which has got all these crazy things going on. If you grab something like Click Curve, this allows you to quickly basically slice your model up really quickly. So you can just take a chunk off and you can just carve it up. It's good at the start if you want to do some like stylized forms maybe. You know, just chop up the model. The controls are a bit weird. I recommend Googling the controls because they're like Control, Shift, Drag, hold Alt, all sorts of random buttons, so make sure you get them written down. But this is really good for all sorts. You can do like surface detail with click curve. If you want to have a nice like stylized trim to it. So there's a bit of an edge there. If I have more topology, you can see that better. But yeah, with stylized, you do quite high poly models because otherwise you get these jagged edges like that. But yeah, click curve is great. And if you need geometry, well, I should say first, click curve, all it does is it takes the geometry that you're cutting and it pushes it down. So it can create some really awkward sections where the geometry kind of folds over itself, like right here. So in those situations, you can use trim curve. And trim curve will give you fresh geometry. So here's the geometry now. Trim curve, fresh geometry, and it won't fold over itself. But that one lags the daylights out of your computer, so be careful of that. Yeah, click curve, about it. I put them all on my UI normally. So once you've done this once and you've tried this out, put it on your UI and you know where everything is. Oops. See, I can tidy that up. Z-remesh it, Z-remesh it. And now I've got a pretty cool mesh here, which you can then come in and do regular modeling on. Obviously, if I masked it a bit nicer, it would be a cool mask, but it's a bit of a messy mask right now. But you can come in and do all sorts of things. You take this into 3ds Max and create like a cool beveled edge or whatever. But the way I do a lot of my models now, I'd like to, even if it's like a hard surface gun or something, I like to do just a quick sketch and then clean it up in ZBrush and then take it into Maya or 3ds Max. It's a really nice little workflow which you can do a lot with. So
When you're doing stylized work, what materials do you like to use?
well, yeah, that's a good question. The Orcs pack has got a great material. If I can find where I put the Orcs pack, that's pure. There it is. There it is. Yeah, the material on this thing right now is the Orcs material, and it's really good because it's a bit like red wax. It highlights the edges of the model. You see in red wax, the edges are red. Well, the Orcs one makes the edges white, so it's a little light, nicer to look at. And it's really good because it allows you to see where faces are clean. So you see this one, there's lots of edges and it's really not very clean, but then you come to this one, super clean. So if you're doing a stylized job, I don't recommend using the regular basic material because you can't see how clean your edges are. Use the Orb pack and it will give you a big boost. And it's free. I didn't mention it's free, so grab that for yourself. What else have we got? Oh, I'll show you the retop. Did I bring it? No, I don't have the retop brush. It's alright. I feel like the retop brush is a bit. Well, there's a tutorial here, and if you're interested in doing stylized sculpts, this tutorial is really good. Pause that. If anyone's interested, it's got a really long name, but it basically teaches you how to make a brush that allows you to retop within ZBrush. Why that's helpful is you can do a really messy sculpt. You do a really messy sculpt, but you can do a bit like what I did here. You can extract a cleaner, low poly version of it. And why is that good? Well, if you have a cleaner, low poly version of it, you can use the crease functions. So if I get this a little bit lower poly, I'll show that off. So right now it looks terrible, but I can use something called dynamic subdiv, which you just hit the D key and it smooths it out. But it's different from doing Control D because it's not actually divided, it's just virtual. So what I can do then, I can use things like ZModeler, which is something else you should really try, it's really good. And ZModeler's got a function called crease. And if I crease some edges in here, and this is really good if you ever want to do guns or stylized models or stylized fabric, retopping and then getting a model like this and using this function is great. So if I hit D this time, I've got a hard edge. So if I come in and, whereabouts is it? It's in dynamic subdiv. If I up the divisions, and I come down to my crease and lower the crease level, you get a really nice sharp edge. And you know that looks pretty cool. You can use this for cars. You can use it for all sorts. You know, there's a There's a lot of things you can do with it. And it's all dynamic. I've not actually made these changes. I've not had to add edge loops in like you would in 3ds Max. It's all dynamic. You can change it on the go. Really nice. I can come in and do something like swivel. And swivel will bring out the edge a bit more. Get a more pronounced edge. There you go. And you know, you can imagine you can use this for all sorts. You can come in and make some really cool weapons or whatever. But yeah, so yeah, check out dynamic subdivisions. Super, super good.
That's all in Z modeler. Do you want to go through the Z modeler keys? Because there's a lot of buttons to get into Z modeler.
Yeah, I'm hesitant about Z modeler because it's quite a lot to take in. I'm still learning it as well. I always turn that off.
I think you.
Yeah, I think I actually pressed the button. Sorry,
That's fine.
I think it's that 6 button there.
Yep, there you go.
Talk about Z modeler. Z modeler did this.
Oh, you had it, Joe.
You had it on 4.
There you
There
go.
we go. Good job. Thank you. I'll try and not need the console.
It's okay.
What was I saying? Yeah, Z modeler. If you've done 3ds Max modeling, Edit Poly, or it's just like general modeling tools, right? It's a brush, ZBrush. There's B, Z, Z modeler. And it's really weird. If you want to edit the points, you hover over a point. If you want to edit edges, you hover over an edge. If you want to edit the faces, you hover over the face. And then you hold space bar, which is like really weird. I don't know why they made it like that. So it's kind of hard to learn, but you might find it really intuitive. I know some people who've learned this and they can go to like fly through Z modeler with this. So you can like say extrude a face, you know, you just do really quick models, swivel the edges, all sorts. You see, there's a lot you can do with it, and make some really weird shapes. But if you can learn Z modeler, really, 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 really helpful, because then you can come in and use this method of using dynamic subdivision. Work actually. Say I want to clean up this one edge, but I don't want to ruin the face. You can just use a mask. Soften the mask, invert it, and then clay polish. And now I've got that one hard edge without affecting the rest of my model. One little thing about, I completely forgot to mention about Sculptures Pro. Going way back to Sculptures Pro, if you click that, Sculptures Pro, I mentioned it before, but you can add topology just in certain areas as opposed to dynameshing the whole model. I wanted to make this chip here, but it's not got enough topology, which is a problem. So if I want to give some topology just to this area, I can smooth it with Sculptures Pro. So you'll see here. There we go. Smooth all the bits that I want to trim. There we go. Now I've got it looks all blobby and terrible now, but if I come back and try that cut again, it should be sharp now. Almost there. I don't think I added enough topology down here. But it's a lot sharper than it was, you see. This edge got is pretty good. So there's another example of why Sculptures Pro is really good. You just add the topology where you need it. Like add a nostril here for fun. You know. And I don't have to dynamesh the whole model. So you will rack up a bigger poly count, but it doesn't really matter. But yeah. Any questions so far? Yes. Yeah, to be fair, it's quite a complicated thing. There's a lot of little buttons you have to click in between, and to be honest with you, I failed to remember half of it a lot of the time. But basically, if you get any mesh like this, it could be a cube, anything you want. Once you've got it like this, it could be your gun. If you come into Z Modeler, which is a brush in your brushes area, if you hover over an edge and hold spacebar, you can find the crease button. And you can also do this through other methods by like polygroups increasing. So if I made this a polygroup and I creased the polygroups, it basically, sorry, was that?
So how did you get it as its own thing, as its own polygon?
Oh yeah, well, you come back here and basically I just mask it. If you mask the area, it's holding control and then hold control W. It doesn't like it for some reason. Oh no, it worked. You see now it's got a blue spot over here. So that's You mask it with Control and click, and then Control W to create your own polygroup. There are other ways to do this, and there is a whole polygroups menu down here somewhere. Yeah, if you want the buttons for it, just come down to polygroup, and you can do it manually. I think there's like group by mask. Group masks, yeah. So I could just come here and click group mask, and it's done that for me. But yeah, once you've done that, you have to isolate the polygroup, which is Control Shift Click. Control Shift Click. I recommend practicing this a bit because it's really finicky. And once you've done that, you can then delete hidden, which is another button somewhere in here. Well, I've got it on my custom UI here, delete hidden. That's the thing, the buttons are all over the place for this kind of stuff, it's really annoying. But yeah, now I've got this model. I actually don't want to lose this character, so I'm going to duplicate it. Duplicate it, isolate that polygroup, delete hidden. And yeah, once you've got that, you can do what you want with this bit. You can Z remesh it, which will try and generate some nice topology for it. Before I Z remesh it, I sometimes like to add a group loop, I think it's called. I used to have this on the UI, but I completely forgot about it for like 5 months. There we go. And that makes it a bit easier to Z remesh. And this is basically like a automatic retopology thing, which you shouldn't use for just your general retopology, but it's good for little bits like this. So let's half it down. There we go, that's starting to look much better. It does it for the whole thing. What I've done is I've separated that polygroup as its own model now. So you see now it's like, where's my thing here? I've now, because I deleted hidden and I isolated it and deleted hidden, it's now its own thing. Yeah, you can literally just mask brush it, isolate it, delete hidden. But make sure you duplicate it first. It's a very finicky, lots of bits, but yeah, you can just extract what you want out of it. So now you've got this, you can come in and use ZenModeler, and you can do something like QMesh, and you've got a cylinder. So if I see all these colours are different polygroups, right? And let me just isolate this. So what I can do is I use something like crease polygroups, which just it looks where each polygroup is, and it puts one of those fake creases on. And once I've got the fake crease on, I can then hit dynamic subdiv, and it's got that nice smooth like the mask. That's a good question. I probably should have gone through that first, to be honest. Dynamic subdiv. There's lots of ways to divide your model, but when you've got a low poly model like this, you can hit the D key or come up to dynamic subdiv, and it just basically gives a preview of what it would be like if it was subdivided, but it's not actually subdividing it. So right now it looks smooth. If I turn off dynamic, it's actually like this. It's all polygonal, which is good. It's hard to describe why this is good because there's lots of different ways to use it. But say you've got a low poly gun, you can make changes to it on the go without actually having a really high poly mesh, which is hard to work with. Yeah.
On your model and dynamics something.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Almost exactly, but I find this to be a bit quicker than Turbo Smooth. And yeah, and the chamfers, you can just take them off if you don't want them. You can hit old, and now that's gone. You see here, it's like got a bit. I can add it back. It's really good. I definitely recommend looking up tutorials for dynamic subdiv because you can do all sorts of different art on it. I only learned it last year. I don't know, I can't remember. Actually, I do remember. I'll give you a tutorial. There's this one guy called, what's he called? I literally said to you earlier. Is it Marco? Marco Kloof, yeah, that's it. Now this guy, he does hard surface models. I'll get his name on board. I don't want to butcher his pronunciation. Here you go, Marco. He has this tutorial called Wasp. Really good, amazing. It's good. It basically does this method loads, and even if you're not doing hard surface models, it's great because it shows you everything he uses at every step of the way, and it's like just a few pictures. So yeah, get the name of this and go to the name of the top. ZBrush Tips. Really, really good one. And yeah, basically what he does a lobby sculpt like this one. I mean, this looks great, but this is his rough sculpt. He is really good, and he's done it for many years. This is his rough sculpt, and what he'll do is he'll come in and mask certain areas, extract them, polish them up, give them bevels, and he shows you here, yeah, he gets it a bit, extracts it, gives it a bit of thickness, and then does the dynamic subdiv so it's like fake smooth. And he rinses and repeats that for about 3 weeks straight, no sleep, and then it looks like this. Obviously, this is super high level work, and he does it. This is what he does a lot of, and he's also got a massive library of pieces which he can just like plonk in wherever he wants, like all these bolts he's already made. So yeah, it is a bit intimidating, but it's a really good tutorial. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. But, yeah, I find dynamic subdiv is a really weird, complicated thing that it takes a bit of learning, but if you can master it, you can do some really cool stuff. It's really good for stylized work because you can do your rough sculpt, you can retopologize it, you can make the low poly version, and you can come in and give the creases so you have perfect creases along your stylized sculpt. Because when you get to polishing a stylized sculpt, you'll start to learn that using the polish brushes becomes a bit messy, and you will spend hours polishing the same face over and over, and it won't look white and clean enough. So if you do this, you get perfect clean edges, and all you have to do is make the low poly version. But yeah, if you're just in first year and learning stuff, don't worry about this. This is more of like a more specialised thing. But I definitely use ZModeler as soon as possible if you are interested in it. But I warn you, it's really weird. Like I'm holding the space bar right now. If I want to extrude a face, I hold space bar, extrude. Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. But look at that, that's some really cool hard surface bits right there. That looks pretty clean, you know? And I can then click, turn it off, and it's just this. That's what the model is right now. I turned off dynamic subdiv. So here's the button, dynamic, over here. You see, I mean, it's not actually made it like that, it's just a preview.
It's like a layer of, it's like a waterfall.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it is kind of like Turbo Smooth. It's like Turbo Smooth, but I find that you have a lot more control because I can then, even when it's like this, I can then grab points. So if I turn that off, yeah, move points. I can move points where I want as I go. Yeah, that's what I would do at the end. Once I've got everything I want and I want to come in and add an extra layer of detail, I'll hit apply, and now it's made this 400,000 poly points, whatever it's called. And now it is actually this geometry. So if I delete lower, this is what it looks like now. And I can't go back once I've applied it. Sorry, your question.
What's the shortcut for Dynamics 3D?
Oh, D. D, Shift D. D is to turn it on, Shift D is to turn it off. To be honest, if you model in ZBrush, you'd probably turn it on by accident. You're like, what the hell's happened to my model? But yeah, D, Shift D. Or you come over to Geometry, Dynamic, and it's just that bit there. There are a lot of random bits you can play with in here. You can actually take the crease modifier and add bevels, actual bevels to it. I can't really remember how to use it. I never use it. Let's see if we can work it out. Do you remember how to use bevels? I don't use it either. I quite like to just add my bevels manually through ZModeler. It's already 8 o'clock. It's one of these. This whole geometry section's got some. Oh, is it this? Okay, that seems to be doing something. Okay, yeah, it's beveled the. I think it's beveled the crease. Yeah, cool. All the creased edges. If you come over here to bevel and hit the resolution, it then gives it a fake bevel on the creases. So that's just an example of what you can do. And it's still this. So I can come in and move that point. I want that point over there. There you go. At some point point I might have destroyed. Oh, okay, yeah, it's just got a lot of topology. Yeah, you can then come in and just adjust the low poly if you want to, and you can still come out with these shapes. And it's not real yet, you know. You can come in and do loads of traditional modelling. If you want to, you can model. If you're better in 3ds Max or Maya, you can model it all in Maya, bring it in, and then do this kind of stuff with it. So there's so much you can do with it. But yeah, I realise we are heading to the end of it, but I'm happy to take questions if anyone has any questions. Yeah. Yeah, shit. Oh, wait, creating your own UI. Yeah, basically, let me reset the UI. So, here's the default UI. In Preferences, Config, you can click Load UI. Or Enable Customize, and once you've clicked Enable Customize, you can grab things and put them where you want. With Control-Alt, so I can add, divide, increase, whatever you want. You can add anything from it. And I've said it a million times today, but I really recommend you do this because there's buttons everywhere and they're all hidden. So, Aki Curve, I mentioned that at the start. I can come down here, curve, grab Aki Curve, and once you like that, you can come into Preferences, Config, Save UI, Store Config, and it will give you a little UI file. And if you put it on your OneDrive, you can get it at uni. So, yeah.
If you want a good UI, normal UI, it's free. I think it's like a good base to like start customizing and stuff on top of that.
From that YouTube video.
It's on their website, I think. Or maybe it's not. I don't.
Oh yeah, here it is. Flip normal set one for free.
Yeah.
Just download it right there. Happy days. Oh yeah. Oh, you can use hotkeys as well, but I've never been a hotkey kind of person, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any more questions? Anything industry related? Anything at all?
You know the manual retopper? Is it just for like making sculpting topology, or could you use that as like
actual retopology?
Actual retopology.
You can use it for actual retopology, but I don't think it's very good for that. Because it's just really jagged and glitchy. I recommend Maya. I don't recommend 3ds Max. I did all my uni retops last year in 3ds Max and it was terrible. Use Maya. Maya's really good. Maya's great. Yeah, just use Maya. Or Blender's good as well.
I'm still hopping
3D Coat is alright, yeah. I used 3D Coat for like 2 years, but I didn't enjoy it. Maya's really easy to use.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm using Maya for like characters and features, but I think it's just forced that habit to use
Maya unwrapping is really good, like clean the edges if you unwrap.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of like squaring.
Yeah, that's really important in the industry. Do you know how to check how much of your UV map you're using for Maya?
I haven't at the moment. No.
I can show you in a second.
Yeah, because I found a tutorial but it's like entirely in Spanish, so it's like.
Yeah, no, I have a tutorial I use.
I remember because I think Jane showed it me. I was just like, this is all in Spanish.
I'll translate it for you.
Right, I'll start wrapping it up. But yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'll come round as well, and if you have any questions, I'll come round to each of you, because unless you need to get a train.
I have an hour and a half to go still, so.
Okay, yeah. I'm happy to come round, so if any of you have questions, I'll come round and help you.
Thank you guys so much. Like, thank you for coming here and thank you for just spending time with us here.
No, thank you.
Yeah.